Hi, everyone. Kimi McBurney is here to join us as our speaker. I loved when Kirsten interviewed Abby, one of our other founders, and I was just so excited to do the same because I hear over and over and over again, Kimi is, and I think it as well, Kimi is such a powerhouse. I always joke because I'm kind of a nerd. I'm like, she's the mitochondria of a cell. So anyways, I'm super excited. Just the more and more I get to know Kimi, she's just such a wonderful person inside and out. And she's truly changed the trajectory of my life, guys. So not only did I start going to the birth center with her, she helped me get up at 5:30 in the morning to work out because she was there with her child. She helped me become a realtor. She got me into this firm. Like, I am just beyond grateful for you, Kimi. So I'm excited to ask you some questions. So I did this kind of selfishly because I am starting to get super busy in my life. And I think, especially the founders, we all have kids, 2 kids under the age of 6. So it's just a season right now that's very busy and then getting busier in production. But Kimi not only has a contractor business for VA work and big government work that she's trying to work through, she also has American Eagle and supporting everything that Chuck ever needs, her first child. And 3, she started transaction contractor for us, which is so wonderful and a helpful resource. And then also she still has a referral business, guys, for being a realtor, which is really wonderful. So she has a lot of balls in her court. So I'm struggling with trying to delegate out tasks. So Kimi, welcome and thank you. So tell us a little bit about you that I didn't cover.
I love that. I feel like you hit a lot of it. First, I'm going to say I apologize to everyone for being in my car. I don't know why that screams like she has not giving this her full attention, but as you guys may know, I don't have internet at my house, so I have relinquished to my car. But anyways, so it's not a measure of how much I do or do not want to be here. I'm so thrilled to be here, and thank you, Corey. Yeah, exactly. Born and raised in construction, did construction all my life, family business. Like you mentioned, Corey, I don't feel like people realize, and it's not to like brag, but it's kind of just like color the situation of like, yeah, we have a large commercial construction company that I still run 50-50 with one of my sisters. I mean, large volume, like we're talking like 10 to 40 million dollars worth of government contracts at any given time. So it's quite a burden. But then so I got my real estate license because I wanted to do real estate for that company, buy and sell for ourselves, which we did. We did some flips and some new construction in 2020. That's when I got my license. And then we were doing home inspections already at the time, but exactly, I do all the admin for the home inspections, and we now have 3 active home inspectors in the field, so it's quite a bit. And then transaction contractor spawned off of that in this past June, so it's really only been around for 6 or 7 months, but it's been insanely successful. And then so as far as real estate team, I'm now referral only, but I do have, I think I'm at 12 agents in my organization. I mean, so that's people that I'm trying to exactly support and pour into and love. And I do really take pride in trying to maintain the real estate aspect of it as well. So I think that's the big picture. And my kids and my husband, and we just hatched 12 chickens. What the F? I have 12 chicks at my house right now. I don't even want to talk about it.
And a
turtle. And 3 dogs. It's fine. We're fine.
It's fine. It's great.
Everything's fine.
We're going to start calling it the funny house.
So Kimi, I'd really expect nothing less from you. So, where are the goats and the lambs and please let that be the next report.
Okay. Noted on it.
That's awesome. So Kimi, get ready, strap up everybody, because we're going to dig deep, because I've been on this journey with Kimi for how long have we known each other? 5 years? 6, 5, no.
6, 5.
I don't know. Some amount of time, less than a decade. And I know, like, through my process of watching you, you've changed so much. So I'd really like to even go past our history a little bit. Like, who was your very first hire? Like, who's the very first person you had to manage?
Oh, like ever in life?
Ever in life.
Oh my God, I have no idea. So when I was first started working for my dad, we would clean the office. Every weekend we'd have to like clean the office. So I feel like I probably have managed my little sisters.
I love it.
But let me like, I'm trying to reach beyond. I mean, like I said, it's been the family business. So obviously, I mean, I've been in an ownership position with the families for 15 years. So probably then, I mean, like I said, at any given time, we had 40 to 50 people on payroll. So laborers, superintendents, stuff like that.
So how about this question? Who is one of your first hires that stuck around for a while? And tell us about the process of hiring them and
Yeah, I'm going to zoom to like current-ish life because like I said, the family business is, it was obviously kind of handed to me in a sense. So I really take more responsibility or identify more with the businesses I built now. So I guess American Eagle is the oldest. I mean, that was 2017. I'd like to think I hired Chuck, even though he technically owns a business. That was hard. I mean, to try and figure out that dynamic of hiring Chuck. But yeah, I mean, going through the process of hiring inspectors, it's probably really similar to any real estate help. You know what I mean? You need people to execute the tasks that need to be done. So I guess Dustin was our first hire. It's so hard. Let me backtrack. We had interviewed a couple home inspectors prior, but Dustin actually came to us. We got really lucky with Dustin. He's incredible. I'm just a really open book. I feel like that goes really far. I'm probably a little too generous and a little too trusting, but to me, that's just how it's got to happen. Like you've just got to, personality comes first for me too. I've yet to do a disc profile on somebody. I kind of just go off of feel, talk, and like trial by fire. Like, let's just dig in. And if it's going to be a good fit, it's going to be a good fit. And if not, then we'll figure it out.
Okay, so let's talk about Dustin. So he came to you, and then what was your next step?
With all home inspectors or realtors, honestly, it's like, let's go. When are you available? Get in the car, because that's how you figure it out. You figure out if you mesh with that person, if that person's even going to like it, especially with home inspections. I was like, day one, we're going in the crawl space, then we're going in the attic, then we're getting on the roof. And if you can survive all those things, then we can move on to part B. So same with real estate. It's like, people are like, how do I get in the canopy? Doesn't matter. Let's go. Get in the car. This is what we're doing every day. You're meeting people, you're talking, you're walking, you're making calls. It's kind of like that's my process, is like entrench them in the day to day, like manage their expectations up front. So Dustin, it literally was, I mean, we had a phone interview, but then it was, hey, get in the car with Chuck. You're going to you'll do ride-alongs till you're blue in the face. And if you're happy with it, then honestly, Dustin was such a good sport. We had to build, our commission structure and our contracts and all that stuff. And he's been really patient of like just building that as we go. But, I just established a daily rate, like a ride-along rate, and was like, hey, like much with the transaction coordinator. It's like, hey, what's your fee? Great, cool. We're going to do one together and we're going to see how it works and figure it out from there.
I love that. That's awesome. Okay, so wait, let me back up. Tell us about your hiring process for someone, because I know not Janelle, not Jolene. What's her name?
Justine,
thank you. So tell us about Justine and how you found her and brought her in.
Yeah, so Justine's I kind of lucked into that situation. So she came from the construction company. So she is our like controller for the big family construction company that I referenced. So I honestly don't even know how we probably found her like on Indeed, like through a job posting. And same, what I feel like I gravitate to people who are like slightly inexperienced and underqualified. Like she's not a CPA, like she's definitely not the most qualified, but it's finding the people who really are dedicated and want to excel and are willing to do whatever it takes to get it done. And she's really evolved over the years. I mean, I think she's been with us, the construction company, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7 years, but yeah, we're essentially winding down that company, which is fine. Like obviously I kind of want to move on to do bigger and better things in my life. So it's been a kind of a natural progression to transition her into roles with my other companies. So if you ever call transaction contractor or American Eagle Home Inspection, you're talking to Justine. She's kind of morphed into an independent contractor for those companies, almost like a VA assistant kind of deal. But obviously I know her. So that's evolving too. Like now she's 1099 for those two companies. And that's been a struggle trying to teach her home inspections, for example. I have 5 years worth of every weird question you could ever ask me in my brain, but it's like, how do you then communicate that to somebody else? So probably from a job posting, but then obviously she's just been loyal and stuck around, and I really try and reciprocate that and return the loyalty. Like obviously I can go hire some call center, but I'd rather work with the people I know.
I love that. Okay, so how do you decide what items to delegate?
Great question. So with like home inspectors, that's pretty easy. Like they have a pretty defined role. At American Eagle, for example, like we keep it pretty linear. Like the home inspectors obviously inspect and write their own reports. They schedule their own showing times, but that's kind of it. We manage all their schedules, manage all their ancillaries. I book all the ancillaries. So I try and keep it pretty simple for them. So for Justine, and once again, like this makes me laugh that I'm even answering this, because I'm like, I don't feel qualified to answer this, but just kind of figure it out as you go. We do dedicate an hour a week to training, and it's just like an hour of me word vomiting. I'll try and keep like a little running list of things I want to tell her, or things will just naturally come up. And I did write a manual per se. Like I one day just sat there and like word vomited on a page of just start to finish. Like I sat there and tried to think of, okay, here's the online scheduler, and if they book this, then know this and know that. So it's like you can kind of word vomit on a page. And then someone had recommended to me, and I do try and do it fairly well, is I think is it Vimeo? You can screen record and talk your computer screen. So like if you're booking something, or if there's something you do all the time, and I'm struggling to think of an example for a realtor, but whatever, like say you eventually want to train someone to do a CMA or something, like, or set someone up on an auto email drip or something, you would literally screen record yourself doing it, talk through the process out loud, and put it in a folder. So that person not only watches it with you, but then they can also refer back to it of like how, so you want to video record. And a lot of VAs will do that. They'll ask that you video record every task, and there's a library of it. So I found that to be really helpful. But then also, just like I said, just it's such an evolution. Like I'll text her all the time, just random things, or, hey, can you jump on the phone? I'll try and have her shadow me on phone calls if possible. Or walk through tasks with her. That's been the most helpful. And like I said, I feel like it's going to be years before she's, just as good as I am, but you just got to kind of trust and walk through those piece by piece.
Okay, so because I know you, I want to take you back, because I feel like you were really, because also it's helpful for us, because as entrepreneurs, we like the control. That's why we're entrepreneurs. We are very, not that it's, I don't know, that sounds so negative, but we know how to do it right in our businesses. So, and I know you were really struggling with like letting go of phone calls and letting go of that stuff. So who in your life, or what in your life happened that was like that trigger to say, this is the right time?
It's never the right time. And I still struggle with it daily. It's so painful when she like texts me a question, and I'm like, oh, that's hard. That's easy. I know that one. I already told you the answer to that. You gotta just like kind of start to have patience with it. And it's really hard. I mean, especially the phone calls, like it's never going to be perfect. So it's like, you've just got to prepare yourself to like that. It's never going to be perfect. Done is better than perfect. And also just learning what your highest and best use is, with like really having that illustration of, my time is not best spent sitting behind a computer, booking showing times and doing all that. Like my time is best spent being out in in the public and doing events and doing meetings and stuff. So I guess making the conscious decision to delegate. And then once you do delegate, immediately busying yourself with how am I going to earn more business, or what do I want to do? And thinking of your end goal. Like my end goal is not to be in the day-to-day. Obviously, I think that's all of our end goal, right? Scale your business so that you're not required and not doing the day-to-day. So I really just remind myself as frequently as I can that the way to get out of that is to delegate and then use my time earning more business. You know, especially with agents, I feel like I can't, when someone's like, I don't want a transaction coordinator, like it's so easy to me. I got it, noted. I believe nothing less than you think it's the easiest thing. You know what's the easiest thing for me? Confirming bookings and answering the phone and sending text messages. But that is not scaling my business. That is not earning me more business. So it's like you've got to let it go, and you've got to spend that time doing higher producing activities. So I feel like bringing it back to that, reminding myself of that often is what helps me get through that.
Oh, that's so beautiful. And you know, I'd like to share just a little bit too. I've recently hired an assistant, and it's very difficult, but I have been meeting with her daily, and that has really helped, because I also did do the disc profile because I needed someone completely opposite. I've hired somebody that was the exact same as me, and it did not work out because she wanted to do the things that I want to do. So I found somebody that's very detail oriented and very, and I'm got the big picture, and it's just changed she's helped me with create events. She's helped me order food. And then that gives me more time to call my sphere and get more business. So I love that, Kimmy. It's so true. And it's hard to continue to remind yourself this is, you know, not only have I replaced this time, I'm going to then hit it in high gear to get to do the higher producing items.
Yeah. And that reminds me of something. So I almost do it on purpose. Like I almost like sign that contract that says I'm going to pay you X amount. You know, like Justine, for example, like I agreed to pay her X amount for admin support, probably before we could technically afford it, right? But I knew the second I did that, I was up against the clock to replace that income. And I had a business coach for a while who said things like along those lines of like, your income, or I hear this from a lot of financial experts, your income, is what you need it to be. We all somehow almost magically like make just enough or make just a little more than enough. But you don't realize that if you sign that contract for that TC or sign that admin help, you're going to make it up. You're going to figure it out. It's going to motivate you to do it. Book that vacation that you don't think you can necessarily afford. Because if you go into scarcity mindset and say, oh, I can't afford it, I'm just not going to book anything and I'm just going to sit here and do nothing. Well, you're right. Then you're going to do nothing. But if I sit there and I agree to get that admin support or sign up for, you know, whatever it may be, you're going to motivate yourself. You know, whatever you focus on expands. Like you're going to motivate yourself to fill that void. And also, like you were saying, Corey, like you sit with your assistant every day. It is the most frustratingly counterintuitive thing you've ever done in your freaking life. But I promise you it'll pay off. And it still frustrates me because you almost feel like you're now negative time. You're like, okay, not only did I not have time to spend the 1 hour doing bookings, now I'm spending 2 hours doing bookings because I got to explain to Justine. But if then the next week that earns me 4 hours back or 2 hours, it's all well worth it. So yeah, great points.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. That kind of answered how do you check in with your folks and how do you manage? So is it daily with Justine and daily with your folks?
Yeah, I mean, they're not necessarily scheduled. Like, I feel like we all naturally just have to talk to each other, right? I mean, because Justine and I are naturally corresponding. So the system is she answers the phone, she texts me what it is. So obviously we're naturally corresponding, and naturally I'm trying to give her as much feedback as possible. And teaching moments will always naturally present themselves. Like it's kind of like you do day one, you do, you know, a full day of I'm going to word vomit on you and here's all the things. And then you just, like I said, trial by fire. I'm just going to start spitting things at you. If it doesn't make sense, ask questions, or things will come up. Like she'll be like, oh, someone called and asked for a sewer scope. What's a sewer scope? Great teaching moment. Here's what a sewer scope is. Let's walk through that. Or same with the inspectors. We're talking all day, every day. The inspectors, we have a monthly meeting, and that's where they bring their suggestions, and that's where the mileage policy evolves, and all those little things. So with the inspectors, I do have monthly. With the construction companies, we used to do weekly. But I think especially with the inspection monthly meetings, like originally they were kind of for morale, but you don't realize like how much input people have and want to have. So I think that's really important. That's actually a good question. I didn't think about it, like having structured time for them to ask questions, provide feedback, because they're going to see stuff that you don't even notice. They may have suggestions to be more efficient than you realize you could be.
Oh, that's so true. That is something I haven't not thought about with my admin. Hey, can you see anything that I could do differently? That's good. Let's see. How do you teach a new task? You kind of alluded to a lot of it. Vimeo, are there trial and error type of things? Are there any other teaching moments? Shadowing.
Yeah, shadowing is a good one. Not really. I mean, there's probably better ways to do it, but not anything that comes to mind. I just did have the thought that I should probably direct them to more so training videos, but no, just the Vimeo, and then just personally walking through the shadowing, essentially, especially with the inspectors. I mean, we have a pretty intense shadowing protocol. I mean, they shadowed Chuck for months before. I mean, and Lindsay was an independent inspector. I mean, she had her own firm, and we, it's like, that's great, but we do things a certain way, so you're going to start all over just so that we're all on the same page. I think shadowing is probably my primary technique at this point.
I love that. I taught a new task this morning and just had her go through it with me. And of course it would have taken me like 2 minutes to do it, but it took 30 minutes. I do now, hearing you to say this, like I do think it's probably important for me now to go back and video record myself doing it so she has something to reference. Yeah,
and heaven forbid she ever leaves or doesn't work out, then you can direct that next person, and their first task can be go watch all the videos.
Right.
So then you're going to save yourself time again in the future to not have to do it again.
That's awesome. Okay. Have you ever had to fire somebody?
In construction, yeah. I mean, with the construction business, for sure. I don't like to do firing though. I always make someone else do it.
There you go. And that's the beautiful part.
Delegate.
Yeah. And owning your own business, you don't have to do the things you don't want to.
I mean, and oh yeah, I fired a couple people. Oh man, I've fired some crazy people. But then also I've had to let a lot of people go, especially in construction. We get a $10 million job that lasts 2 years. Great. When the job's over, it's kind of part of the, it's a little bit understood. So it's not as hard as one might think because it's the natural evolution of construction projects. But not in recent. And I just feel like I've approached it so much differently. And one thing that was important to me was the construction companies were so large. Like I said, we had 40 to 50 employees at a time. I don't want to do that again. I feel like that's very motivating to me, is like, how can I build my businesses to scale, but also not have to have all these employees? And I think real estate is a perfect forum for that because we're all naturally independent contractors. And I have made a big point of doing things commission only. Like for example, in the inspection world, it's kind of 50-50. Some people are hourly / salary-ish, or some people are commission only. And I love commission only. It's like, hey, you do an inspection, you get your cut, we're good. Or you drop a rate on, this is the fee. So that's been really great to be able to do that. And then in that sense, I don't ever really have to fire someone per se, because it's like, I'm giving you what I want to give you. It's not a salary, so I don't owe you anything and you don't owe me anything. It's based on each individual task. And even with transaction contractor, like I partnered with Michael Burgess, who's fantastic. And I feel like I get pretty lucky with some people who I work with, but same, commission only. Great. We earned, we have this job that we were contracted for. And yeah, we split, he gets paid to hourly, we split the profit. So I feel like that's been a big improvement in my life. And same with you guys. Like I would encourage you, and Corey, I don't know how you do it, but like, you know, for an assistant or whatever, oh, that's hard.
Well,
You
I
know,
do.
but like,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
how
do
do you do
do
it?
that. Yeah. So $25 an hour, but I also do $100 bonus for every closing I have, because that just shows her that the more, you know, she takes off my plate, the more productive I can be. And I'm happy to give that cost to her. And then my
Yeah.
transaction contract coordinator, oh my gosh, Kimmy, which is my PC, I give her a fee at closing, and I have now made my clients pay for that.
Yeah, I think
It's
like
a lovely
that's
thing.
yeah, I think that's great. And I think that's one of the best examples is transaction coordinator, like same, like an inspector, like you give me a list of services, here's your fee in exchange, as opposed to, and like I said, I agree that admin's kind of hard, but bonus structures are great for admins or yeah, like I just try and get away from like, oh, you've got a 40-hour week and here's your salary. Like it's got to be a little more tangible than that to do it. And I think I saw a question pop up, if I
Yeah.
delegate in my personal life. That's hilarious. Probably not. No. Kind of.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, you're like, no. Well, I have the worst employees in my personal life. Chuck is
I
a fantastic inspector, husband. Meh. I'm just kidding. I try, but I
you
don't.
do.
Do I? Yeah,
You do,
Corey, tell
and
me
you
how I
do, and
delegate.
you do, you do in different ways. Like I feel, so you've got the Tammy of the world that like will babysit for you, and you like you plan ahead for that, which I have been trying really hard to do that model too, and I need some time. And then also I feel like, you know, when your week is really crazy, you get takeout and let it be a thing. And that, I mean, to me, that's delegating. That's you not cooking. That's, you know, that's just letting that be what it is.
Yeah, that's a great point. And that, so to my previous point, like that stresses me out sometimes. Like exactly, like I naturally have to network probably at least once a week. Let's say on average once a week. So yeah, on average once a week, I'm paying $100 a night for someone to babysit. And that's a painful pill to swallow, but I am freaking on. Like I'm making the most of that evening. I introduce myself to every single person in the room, you know, stuff like that. So exactly. And our business has grown because of it. That's a fraction of one inspection. If I can book one inspection, you know, that's paid for itself tenfold. So that's true. I've got all the people. And yeah, you're right, Corey. I think that's huge. Like Tammy is a babysitter. I have other babysitters, or even just utilizing family to fill the gaps. I've got the dog sitter. I use Instacart religiously. Okay, now my brain's going. Instacart, freaking stop grocery shopping, people. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's like $2 more. I don't care if it's $50 more. Like that time back is invaluable. I
Agreed.
do a lot of takeout. It saves my sanity. 100%. Those are great. And I'll pay for stuff like, oh my gosh. So I teach social media a lot. Obviously, that's kind of my new passion. And like the captions app, they're like, oh my God, that's $9.99. You know how much business I've gotten from social media? I think I can afford $9.99, people. Like, stop doing your freaking captions or your video editing or whatever. And that goes back to the example of like the evenings where or Tammy, like sometimes I have her twice a week if I have to network, but I know it's going to pay me back tenfold. So it's like, you got to just bite the bullet, and it doesn't pay me back the next day, but it's like, you've got to kind of almost overextend yourself to motivate yourself to make up the difference and to put yourself in the position you want to be in.
And you're so right. It's such a hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, you have to think of those dollar signs and flip it, right? Like say to yourself, if I just get one sale. So an example for me this weekend, I had 2 events, my son's birthday party, and I did a appreciation party, probably saw 150 people. You guys, it was out of control. But I have 3 people buy, sell, and want a listing presentation out of the weekend. That's like probably 2 million total, maybe more in sales. Like then it's already paid for itself, even though it probably cost me like $2,000 for the weekend. Right? Like it pays for itself, which is awesome. But it's so hard to think about it that way. It's like, oh no, but that scarcity mentality again, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I heard a quote this morning or something. And it was like also just having in our business, you've got to get used to your week was planned last week, your month was planned last month, your year was planned last year. Like it's so doing things in advance, which is hard. Like I hit it really hard, in the slow season in October, November, December, which was really hard. But now seeing it pay off and seeing the bookings and like you're saying and seeing, the transactions pay off, like it'll come. If you build it, it will come. But you've got to just bite the bullet and do the work. Chop
Yeah.
wood, carry water.
Yes. And I love the Instacart. I use Walmart, and my husband is a penny pincher. For you guys that know me and him, he would not agree to it for the first year that I'd pushed for it. But finally, I was doing most of the grocery shopping. And when I go grocery shopping, the marketing works so well for me. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I'll eat that. Or I'll go to the grocery store hungry. So I have proven to him that it has saved us money. And I like literally did a data sheet for him to be like, look at what we're spending now, what we have. And it costs more. But of course, like the internet stuff, they still try to pop stuff up and ads and stuff. But that, I don't know, for some reason that doesn't faze me. And it saves me so much time and energy. It's awesome.
100%.
Okay. Also, Kimmy, I was going to point out something that I keep hearing in your story, and also because I know you, Kimmy, the people that are surrounding her genuinely, what I've seen, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, genuinely want to see Kimmy succeed. Like the people Kimmy has in her court, like the Dustins of the world, the Lindsay, the Justine, like they want to work hard because they love seeing Kimmy succeed. And that is so cool to find, like someone who's altruistic. Is that the right word, guys? Like want
Sure.
to, yeah, like that want
I get it.
and need to help someone else. Which that came up in my assistant's disc profile and was super, super nice to have, like someone who finds value in just working hard for someone else and not creating the business from the ground up.
Yeah. And I feel like actually that's a good point. And I feel like you'll enjoy this story. I learned that a lot from my dad. Like he just treated his employees so well. And you had asked the question, who's been with you the longest or something along those lines. And the first guy who came to my head was this guy, Juan, and he worked for my dad in construction for like 50 years. Like it was insane. Like he was there from day one, and just like my dad took care of him. And like he always had employees, and I'm sure not everybody, but a majority of them just like gravitated to him and did well. Like, so I really try and embody that with all my employees. Like I remember Dustin like came to me one day and he's like, thank you so much. He's like, you guys are just great. Like, for example, we do IRA matching, which in independent contractor world is just insane, right? No one does that. But I was like, you know what? It's 3%. Like, it's not a lot. And it just meant so much to them. And it's like, those things will pay back in dividends. Like Dustin's going to earn us more money than that would ever amount to. And then say like Michael, a transaction contractor, like, do I have to split it 50-50 with him? Like, no, could I go find a project manager that I pay hourly and, crack the whip? But guess what? They're going to leave and they don't care. It's going to pay dividends to like take care of the people like you, Corey, like bonusing your admin. Like I guarantee you not everyone out there does that. Like those little things will pay back tenfold if you do those things. So that's true that I've always like gravitated towards people who appreciate that and also rewarded people for their work, and because of my dad. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Oh, it's gonna make me cry. Gosh dang it, Kimmy.
You're gonna make me cry. It'll talk fast. Just zoom over it. It's great.
So sweet. Yeah, and like, another example of like my admin's sick right now, like cold. So I sent her Kirsten, we sent Abby came up with this place called Spoonful, and it's where they send like chicken noodle soup and like just taking care of your people. So I just went ahead and sent that, and it's a little expensive, but like it's that just like warmth and knowing that I care for her, I think is, yeah, like you said, that 3% is awesome, Kimmy. Maybe I should somehow like do an inspection a month to get involved. I'm just kidding. Okay, I do not need a license. How do you approach course corrections?
Oh man, that's hard. I have like a serious moment where I'm like, okay, you need to calm down. Like take a moment. They don't know better. Like I have to remind myself, like, I try and take responsibility. It kind of reminds me, I read the book, Extreme Ownership. Oh my God. Has anyone read it? Jocko Willink, that he was a Marine. I think Xander and I were talking about it. First of all, do the audiobook because he's fucking hilarious. There's a requirement to be a Marine. I'm convinced that you have to talk all like, this is how we do it. You got it. Da, da, da. So like for a whole audiobook, he's just like jacking me up. But the premise is, and actually Grant Cardone had the same premise. Everything is your fault. Everything. He's like, Grant Cardone's example that I always bring up is a tree fell on the power line of your house and you lost power. That's your fault. Why is it your fault? You don't have a generator. You didn't have a plan B. You know, you didn't do something to ensure, like beyond the shadow of a doubt, that you're going to succeed. You know, even if it seems like something like that, like a tree falling on your power line, how is that really your fault? That's not what he meant. What he meant is you're responsible for your circumstances. You know, you lose a client or you do this and that. You either didn't do something to prevent that, or you're not busy enough, or you haven't busied yourself to distract yourself from that or to have other things to do. So it's trying to be like, so course correction. It's like, as frustrated as I am, even as sometimes when I know beyond a shadow of a doubt that I already told Justine that, I accept that. That's my responsibility. It's no one else's responsibility. This is my company. So I try to have that like small teaching moment to myself and just take a deep breath and repeat myself or do it again. Yeah, even though it's hard, but that's kind of the thought process I go through.
I love that. And I have this last week, I had a TC issue and I was like, what would Kimmy do? I had a moment and I was super direct and said, how can we prevent this from happening in the future? You know, just ask that question to her to get her thoughts, you know, like just tried to change my mindset of what can I do to help you not let this happen again. And it was received really well. And she even like changed policies to like me. So it's really cool. Like I didn't have to say like, how dare you? How could you have done that? Blah, blah, blah. It was just, how can we do this again in the future to not let this happen?
Yeah, I love that. And even like client facing stuff, people don't realize, like if something happens, just own it, eat it, ask them what can I do to ensure this? Do you have any feedback? Like if you ask a client, even if you messed up, and if you ask them like, how can I do that? Or how can I make it up to you? Or how can I please have your feedback to better our services in the future? You know, it goes a really long way. That's a great illustration.
So true.
I like that.
I did that recently with a client and it was really freaking hard to hear some things. Some of them were irrational and I helped make them more rational, but some of them were like really helpful and from my business a couple of years ago, and I took it to heart. And I also brought in another realtor because I feel like sometimes when you bring someone else in, managerial style, even like if you bring someone else in to help teach the thing, or, you know, help fill that gap. I brought Kirsten in with these clients and it's worth it to me. Like I'm splitting the commission 50-50 and I didn't lose them. Like I'm still getting 50%. Like I didn't ruin our relationship. Like they're super happy with the change. So yeah, that's a really good point. So you are a taskmaster. I've got 2 more questions left, so we're doing pretty good on time. And I know people probably have questions for you too. So you are a taskmaster. We all know that. So help us understand your process. And I know it may include pieces of paper and pen. So
I'm like, do I get my list out right now? First of all, I just also this, like, I don't know, I feel compelled to say this. I feel like people are under some illusion with me that like I'm nailing it, I'm like hyper productive, which may be semi-true, but I'm like, I promise you that this is attainable for everybody. You know what I mean? I wasn't always as productive. So something that just personally works for me are to-do lists. And I know, Corey, we've explained this to you, but I guess it starts with email. The one thing I do is do email. I read them all and then I star them if they need attention. So I try and kind of have an ongoing starred folder. And at any given time, my starred folder can have 85 emails in it, which is fine because they're not all immediate attention. Or another email tool that I've loved lately is schedule send. So like if you, Corey, send me an email and you're like, hey, I've got a client that's going under contract, like maybe in a week or two, like, can you follow up or can you call them? I will forward it to myself and schedule send it for a week later. So in a week, I'm going to get an email that's going to jog my memory to follow up with you. Or like, okay, access freaking realtors who don't have their listings in showing time. Well, so I sent them an email saying, hey, you got an inspection. Can I have access information? But it, just in case they don't respond, I'm going to schedule send it to myself in 2 days to remind them, etc. So schedule send has been huge for me. Every day I set reminders on my phone. So first thing in the morning, I will, okay, we've got a call at 8:30. Okay, 8:25, there's a reminder. I've got a coffee at whatever, 10. Okay, 9:45, there's a reminder. You know, calls like this, 2:55, whatever it is. So that's helpful because it frees me from having to sit there all day and being like, oh shoot, okay, hold on. In 2 hours, I gotta be there in 2 hours. Okay, 1 hour. No, I know that there's an alarm set and it'll remind me when it comes time. And I even start those the night before because my brain is like crazy at nights. But if I set an alarm for it, like it kind of gives me mental permission to let it go. So, and iPhone alarms I can set like, up to 24 hours prior. So that's helpful. And then, yeah, on the most basic level, a handwritten to-do list. That all spawns off of like, I have a notepad in my iPhone, iPhone notes or whatever. That's where I keep most of it. But so then every morning, when I have some admin time, I sit down and I write as reasonable I can of a to-do list, 10 things that need to get done. And then Corey laughs at me because it's literally like handwritten and I can't get away from it. I used to handwrite my calendar too, which was atrocious, but I've gotten away from that now. So I handwrite a to-do list and it's so satisfying to obviously check things off the to-do list. But I also realize that if it hits 1 or 2 o'clock and I'm running out of time, I then make another to-do list. I take that list and really consolidate and say like, what's really realistic that I can actually do today? And that list will only have, 1 to 3 things on it. That's just a kind of a way to help me just kick it in high gear and be productive. So I feel like those are my general tips on that.
I love that. Okay, Beth has a question, but I have one more question for her and then we'll open up the floor. Does that work? Okay, write it down in case you forget. So how do you follow up on each of your businesses? Like obviously there's so many balls moving every day. I really shouldn't use the word balls. Especially in a women's group, like really gross. So with everything, all your businesses, like how do you follow up?
Not well. That's definitely, I think I've got room for improvement there. Schedule send, I feel like I kind of utilize for stuff like that. If it's like a tangible. I mean, I'll be honest, I've paid for numerous CRMs that I don't use. Memory. I mean, like I said, to task specific, obviously I'm going to either write a reminder, schedule, send an email, but like in general, like if you're talking about follow up as far as like lead follow up type stuff, like not great at it. And then I guess for like inspections, I've tried really hard to refine our automated email system. Automate as much as you can. I know it kind of feels impersonal, but the more you can give touches and stuff on emails, like for example, home inspections, if you guys have ever booked with us, like you get a thank you for the referral, this, that. So just trying to really like automate as much as I can and utilize like opportunities, like, our event on Friday, I went through my entire inspection, the last 30 realtors I've talked to, just send it all to them. And no one said they hate me and no one said I spammed them, and a handful responded. So just triggering events like that, I feel like I guess has been most successful for me. And if I meet somebody and I need a specific follow-up, I'll try and do it as soon as possible. That'll go on the to-do list. Like if the night before my next day, one of my first things to do is go through the business cards I got the night before and follow up at least that once.
I love that. And I think your email taskmaster self, I love that, which I've taken some of those things over the years. Also, which Kimmy, I know you just heard about this, the Reach app has been really helpful for follow-up stuff. Kristen and I really pounded out some invites to an appreciation event. And it's just going to be really nice because we will be able to follow up with the same thing in the same group of people with the Reach app, and it sends them individual text. So it's a really cool. I'm going to do it for other realtors too, after we get off this call. So yeah, love it. Okay, Kimmy, thank you. That was gold. So good. Beth, Beth, what is your question?
Is there a like a Kimi microchip that we could purchase or download so that we could be as productive as Kimi McBurney? And then I went ahead and just Googled it for myself, how to schedule and send an email. So I have my question answered now, and it's awesome. So, so you don't use KV Core though, is that correct? Because you're not really in production, but you could be using it for your other businesses, right?
Technically, yeah, I do have a KV Core. It's set up. I've got people on email drips from like forever and a day ago. I got a lead the other day. I was like, how did you even find me? So it's there. And that's kind of on my eventual goals of maybe setting up some sort of drip or, just have it out there as a landing page. So yeah, I think that goes to my point of like, I don't exactly have a CRM that I love. Luckily our inspection software is very robust and has some of those activities in there, but yeah, I don't have one super refined yet.
Beth, I was going to say too, like one of the schedule send things that I use it for is when I'm sitting at 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, writing emails. I think there's a service to do this via text because I cannot stand, like, you have boundaries, right? But you also, if you have a pocket of time and the kids are asleep, like I also would like to schedule send stuff. So that's been really nice. They'll send it at 8 a.m. and then, yeah, I love that. Anybody else have questions for Miss Kimmy? Kristen does. No, she doesn't. Okay, I thought you were I thought you were about to unmute.
And another thing I'll mention schedule send. So I do the alarms. So the alarms can only be 24 hours prior. Like, right, it's 3:48 p.m. If I set an alarm after anytime after 3:48, it's going to go off today, not tomorrow. So if there's one that I want to do more than 24 hours prior, I will schedule send myself an email. Like schedule send myself an email next Monday that says, Kimmy, don't forget to make the dentist appointment, or Kimmy, don't forget to do that. So I utilize it for that too, because I haven't really found an efficient way. Like I know I can put it in my calendar to like remind myself, but emails to me are more top of mind than like putting as an event on my calendar. But I do utilize that as well. So even schedule sending yourself reminders is very helpful.
I love that. Yeah. Open book. Amy, Kirsten, Sandy, any questions? Kristen?
Hey, I'm not on camera, but I am sitting here listening to all of this gold stuff. Actually, my question is, because I'm trying to be better about my calendar and not continuing to miss things. And I love schedule send. That was a game changer for me when I realized I could do that. Like I could, when I'm not sleeping in the middle of the night, I could actually put an email together and the person will know that I did that in the middle of the night. I'm trying to be better about my schedule because I keep missing things. And are we meeting in person tomorrow? Because I have that.
Yes. We are at First Watch. I actually was going to post.
Where is that? What is that?
First Watch is in Biltmore Village area. You know where the hibachi place is and Jimmy John's and all that. It's in there. Okay. It's kind of like fancy juices and healthy type of, healthy, but like lots of vegan, vegetarian, gluten-free, that kind of stuff. Hipster like.
Yeah, I'm such a hipster. Yeah.
Very Asheville of you.
So I'm excited to see you guys. Yeah, at 12,
will be there.
12 o'clock, 12 to 1. I'd love to, have lunch with you guys. Be great. And invite other people that, other realtors that you'd like to see in person. Like we'd be happy to love on them for you guys too.
So, but Amy, I feel like I'm hearing your question. I wish I could screen share. This one came from Corey. Okay. So first and foremost, you've got to be religious about your calendar to get things in there. And I also had a problem because I have like 5 different emails. So I had like 5 different calendars. So I like made a life's mission to do one email address that shares all of my calendars. So if that means it's lame. I had to make an email, Kimmy@KimmyMcBurney.com. My business coach made me do it. But then, so if someone invites me with American Eagle, I'll also invite that email address. So it's got to be reliable, right? So that's first and foremost, you've got to be reliable. Also, take off anything you're not going to be at. Like like Shoe Spark stuff, like if you're not going to be there, just delete it. Because if your brain knows that there's a bunch of crap on there, like you're going to gravitate away from it. So make it the most reliable, most accurate thing. And my business coach taught me to schedule all of it. Like you schedule from, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. If there's free time, you call it flex time, you call it whatever it is. Also schedule in their travel or where you've got to be, or I'll block days if I know I'm physically need to be somewhere else. So the entire day will be like, office or wherever. So just make it something super reliable. So here's the Corey tip. In your iPhone, I'm sorry if you don't have an iPhone, you do the widget at the top. So at the very top of my screen, it always is the next 2 activities on my calendar. That's super helpful. So it's kind of like right in front of my face. I can't miss it. Also using different colors. So I like to use red for like something I physically have to be at. Like, oh shoot, I've got to like physically go get in the car right now to make this meeting. That's been helpful to me. And then also getting in the habit of on Sundays, I look at the whole week, make sure everything's where it needs to be and make sure I don't have any conflicts, blah, blah, blah. And then the night before, I try and get in the habit of, 8 p.m. just before I go to bed or whatever, look at the next day, make sure it makes sense, make sure my hair is washed or whatever needs to be done, or make sure I freaking schedule time because we're women and we have to schedule time to wash our stupid hair, or my bald husband just willy-nilly goes on with his life like nothing ever happened. So those kind of scheduled tasks, but it's been a serious undertaking for me. So know that it's something you've got to definitely put some work into, but that's how it works for me.
Yeah, I love the colors, and I do a lot of what you said. I got lost at widget. I wouldn't even know how to do that.
Oh, it's beautiful.
I mean, I made a weather widget at some point. I probably Googled something and figured out how to do it, but like doing it again, that's some work. But yeah, it's a matter of, I love the idea of taking off the stuff that So I've got all this stuff on here that are the potential things that I might go to, but I've started to like take those off. I know consistently I don't go to them. I should be focused on the stuff that I really want to be doing. And so I've started to do that as well. Good.
Yeah.
Good
Well, if you go tomorrow, ask Corey. I'm sure she would love to help you set up your.
I am going to go
widget
tomorrow. I'm going to learn how to do widgets. And my hair will be washed, so I could be on camera. But
it sounds like it's a hair washing day for a lot of us.
Yeah. Okay. Zandy too. So Corey tomorrow at noon is hosting a widget class, master class at.
You guys, my life is such like trial and error. I don't even know, but I will research to make sure I got it figured out.
And she's gonna record it so that we can learn in the future.
There you go. I love it. Well, thanks, guys. Thank you, Kimmy, so much. This was really, really helpful. Yeah, I think for everybody.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And I cannot be there tomorrow. I'm sad, but I just want to offer. I'm very, 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 very serious. I am always here as a resource. I don't care what it's about. I don't care if it's another home inspector or another GC or another realtor or another thing or a mom thing. Please, please, please always ask me a question. Always text me. Always approach me. I'm always happy to help if I can.
It's true. True statement.
Thanks, Kimmy.
Yeah, bye.
Thank you, Kimmy.
Have a great day.
Bye.